This is a kind of continuation subject, really, from the housekeeping and prep. This is sort of looking at what are the really, again, practical verbal instructions and guidelines and written instructions that we can have around the use of video conferencing that you might discuss and put into place with your teams around feeling safe. So again, holding in mind how people might be feeling in these meetings, we can start to think, well, what are the things that we can kind of put in place? I think having some actual guidelines, like written guidelines that everybody can take a look at, is really, really helpful. And just putting into those guidelines the idea of taking mini breaks, of, looking after yourself, hands over the eyes, or being able to move in meetings, just even having that said in a list of guidelines can help people feel like I can do that. I can shift and move and make sure I'm feeling okay and I'm looking up and I'm looking away and I'm doing my peripheral vision. You might even sort of remind people in meetings verbally to just remember to look away from the screen, use your peripheral vision tools if you need to, shift and move so that you can stay present and focused as much as possible. Encouraging people to take care of their own needs. We're not in the same space. There isn't a tea urn in the corner and water on the table. So it might just be assumed, but I think giving that little bit of instruction can help people to know and remember that perhaps they used to have that, or they do have that when they go into face-to-face spaces. They have these biscuits and fruit and tea and water and tissues and the right chair. And it's just encouraging people to consider that for themselves. Do you have what you need for your own well-being in this space, as best as is possible with what's available to you? I think sort of sending this out in writing, reminding people in little group chats, even at the beginning of video conferencing meetings, is really, really useful, because it's very quick and easy for us to forget these things and stop doing this bit of movement, or making sure we've always got a glass of water, or that we're taking breaks for our eyes or our body. So just kind of, the way I would see it is kind of key themes. Are you looking after your personal needs before, during and after these kinds of meetings? What's happening with the needs of others? So if it's our responsibility, are we checking in? Are we asking people? Are we sending information out, making sure people are holding these ideas in mind? And in terms of our facial expression, if we can't stay engaged, might we sit back for a moment, turn our screen off if that's appropriate for the type of meeting we're having? Just remembering that how we look in this box does actually affect the other people who are looking at their screens. And just sort of thinking from a managerial perspective or leadership perspective about the needs of your staff. So really leading in, this is not always easy. It's okay for us to feel a bit vulnerable, a bit offline and stressed, or going into a bit of a stress state. This is human. There isn't really anyone that's immune to this. It might be a bit more subtle for some people, it might be more extreme for others, for all sorts of different reasons. But just giving these kinds of reminders from the top down, that this taking care is going to actually aid and benefit everyone, and even your organisation and its outcomes and its targets, because people will feel far more able to be engaged and working in ways that feel meaningful and productive. So just being really clear with everyone as well of what's possible, of what they can do, of what's expected of them in any given meeting. And don't assume that everybody knows. We have this tendency to assume everybody knows what we're doing here. Everybody remembers that we spoke about that, or we did that training. Just keeping the reminders going is another way of kind of letting people know that these things matter, and that they matter, and their well-being matters. So just really taking care of this side of things and making sure there's plenty of repetition of this is really everybody's responsibility, but absolutely kind of comes from the top down, maybe in written guidelines and in verbal reminders. So just taking care of ourselves and of each other when we're doing video conference calls. Take a look at the self-guided learning exercise. That might give you some ideas of things that you need or don't have, or other ideas beyond the things I've spoken about that you might need in your workplace and in your meetings. Okay.